bargaining units and for the administrative personnel negotiations, I guess. Yeah. All right. Now the fun part. Recognition.
Yeah, this is the fun part. Oh, we need to put on our mics, everybody. We're good.
Good.
Yeah, tonight we actually have dual recognition, and I'm gonna let Kate. They're both from Buena Vista, so Kate, why don't you you can have the fun.
Okay. We'll start with basketball. I'm Mrs. Martinoni here to do our spelling bee. So we have quite a full house today, and rightfully so. We've had. Oh yeah.
Move to stand up.
Oh, it's the wrong side. Okay, well, I'm just going to commit here.
Okay.
But we've had a lot of recognition at Buena Vista, so I'm going to start off with our 7th grade girls basketball team. I'd like you to stand right now. You're going to come up and get a medal in a second. And our coach, Leon Stepp. They were undefeated this year and last year, I found out today.
Yeah.
And this year, they took league champions in the end of the year NCJAL tournament and will officially get their banner in the gym. It's a huge accomplishment. So
Wow.
first, I just would like to give the whole team a round of applause. So if we can, each board member has 2 actual medals, and they're going to distribute them to the girls. And if you can stay up here, we'll do a team picture at the end. And Coach, your award is the banner, which will be hanging up. So as I say your name, if all the board members could stand up,
Just kind of rotate.
and we'll just kind of rotate through. So our first one, Lily Arroyo. That's okay. She deserves the claps anyway. Anahi Dunstan.
Lily's here.
Oh.
Julia Hogendijk. Natalie Lopez. Sophia Lopez. Lucia Marisol. May Fee. Alyssa Rico. That's all right.
You all got one. With that.
And Bella Stepp. And Coach Leon Stepp. Come on up. So board members, if you want to stand in the picture too, I think that'd be wonderful since you distributed the medals.
One to go through.
Oh, yeah.
And then all parents who want to kind of come up here to sneak a picture too.
Yeah,
Man, you're all taller than me.
Just don't trip on a cord. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Sorry. Count.
I better hope so. And so we're gonna throw one more. Everybody go back up. Another student who showed up there helping with the reading night, Rochelle Wilkinson.
Yeah, we gave all the extra members.
Okay, good.
So board members back up there.
Alexa needs hers.
Okay. Where's Alexa?
Well, no, how about we just put the president in this one? You guys want all?
No, that's fine.
Represent us, Chris.
And then parents, you want to come back up?
They're not all coming.
All right, let's do this again.
Looking good, team.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you go.
Congratulations.
Oh yeah.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4,
See, by the fifth count, usually people.
Yeah.
They get a real smile.
I learned that just from.
Thank you. Congratulations.
I must have another thing. I would like, give him a chance. So cute.
And then now we have our spelling bee coordinator from Buena Vista here, Kelly Martignoni, and she will be announcing our first, second, and third place winners of the Buena Vista Spelling Bee. And one of those spelling bee winners, Colt Ordonez, in a second, he will be representing Buena Vista at the county spelling bee this Saturday. Yeah. So stage is yours.
Now it's my turn to squat like you, right? No, I don't think I have to. So welcome to the board. Welcome, gentlemen. It's my first time being with you in a board meeting. It's nice to have you here. And to all the parents, it's so fun to have such a full room. It's exciting. Congratulations, basketball players. But now we're going to talk about academic success and talk about our spelling bee. So at Buena Vista, we hosted our whole school spelling bee, and then the qualifiers were narrowed down, and we had our in-school spelling bee. And tonight we're blessed to have our places, and so it's my pleasure to ask. Okay, I put these in order. Yeah, you did. Okay, our third place speller at Buena Vista Middle School, 8th grader Gianna Bianchi. Come on up, Gianna. So here you are, and just go ahead and stand right up there. You get to stand there the longest because you're in third place. And our second place speller, Cliff Bunden. Oh. Is not here, but he'll know he got award. Maybe he's at home watching. Cliff, if you're watching, congratulations. And then first place, if I could have Colt Ordonez come on up to receive your certificate. Here you are, young man. Thank you so much. These kids did a fantastic job, spelled some really hard words, and Colt was the sole survivor of getting every word right. So we're very, very proud of him. So give one more round of applause to the spelling bee winners at Buena Vista Middle School. Thank you. Proud tradition. We expect to do it every year, right? Well, Colt will be back because he, as the big winner.
Yeah.
I have it in a file in my classroom, so I'll try to remember to tell Maddie for you tomorrow, and I'll look that up because that's one of the things I have to report to the Scripps Institute Spelling Bee people is which word was the last one that he spelled correctly. Do you remember the word that you did not spell correctly? Good. I'm glad you don't remember because there was only one of them. And there was something else that just occurred to me as I was looking over there. Oh, well. It's typical. I'm getting old. So thank you, spellers. And are we doing photo too? Okay. Now I'm going to stand over here with you.
And I believe.
You want all of us in here?
Sure. Why not?
With the basketball players, right?
So let's have you kids take one step forward. You'll be the first feet on the carpet, and then we'll stand behind you on the feet on the
What
tile
good
mat.
direction.
You won the Spreckels one last year too, right? Bumping it up this year. Yep. All right.
That's what it
One,
was. Thank you. That's what I was going to say.
2, 3, 4, 5.
Mrs. Pagran, would you like to be in a
That's
picture?
okay. I'm good, but thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Congratulations.
Yes, I wanted to make sure everyone knew that we have 2 more years of Speller Colt behind to go, so no pressure, Colt.
I don't know, but I'm glad she did it.
At the middle school that I was principal at, we had a. Bye. It is a good time to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I feel bad.
All the fun's over.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
But I'm going to say it anyhow. When I was a principal, I had a 7th grader who got knocked out of the national with the word onomatopoeical.
Pinnacle. Yeah.
Onomatopoeical.
That's different.
Well, that's a word.
Yeah.
Yeah, that has to be.
Adjective
Yeah.
version.
The adjective version of onomatopoeia.
Yeah.
Buzz, whack. Zzz. That's onomatopoeia.
That
Yeah.
particular.
We had never heard it either.
Either did this kid.
Yeah, I wouldn't have gotten right.
Yeah, none of the faculty at our school would have made it past that either. Yeah. I'll never forget that word. I've tried to use it since then.
You just did.
Okay, now it's just us. I don't have any individuals desiring to address the board. No sheets. Okay. Bargaining unit presentations.
We have one.
There you go.
Since I'm here at the meeting, I offered to speak on behalf of STA for Steve because I am a vice president at STA currently, and I serve on behalf of Buena Vista Middle School. So for the record, I'm Kelly Martignoni. And I'm going to read from my phone because Steve communicated with me what he was intending to say. So I'm going to express this, and I don't know if Veronica can hear me. So I kind of want to wait, but I won't. Steve wanted us as STA to communicate what a bittersweet time it is to be a Spreckels district teacher. We have, 2/3 of the way through the year, so grateful to have a basically COVID-free experience year, things so much more back to normal. It feels so good to see the signs of regular and normal again, and that's been such a nice way to have a year roll. And the bitter is what's going to be later in the agenda, of course, and the fact that we're going to be trying to fill huge shoes in our district. And we have 3 huge sets of footprints that are going to be a challenge. And Steve wanted to mention in particular the music program. We got to hear them as staff at BV yesterday, the choir that is, and what the work that Ms. Thompson has done and does indeed leave some huge footprints to fill. And of course, adapting to a new principal is always a challenge, so we have that. And then just having our district be in the position that it's in and able to do all the things that we do, we know are because of the work that you've done as our chief business officer and whatnot. So we're very grateful that you all 3 of you have been here to provide this for us, and we realize that it's going to be a tremendous difference and huge shoes. And I don't think Steve would have thought that.
Pretty sure you would.
On behalf of STA, we wish those of you who will be doing interviewing good luck. And thank you. That's our comments for tonight.
Thank you. Okay, CSEA? No? Do you want to say no publicly or no? Kidding. Board member comments? We'll start down at the other end with Peter.
I'm all good. Been a long day. I did farm day today. Went to feed. Now I'm here. So, no, I went to Spreckels School and did a tour there. Very pleased. 4th graders are doing missions. Excuse me. Oh, sorry. Doing missions. So I put my 2 cents in and checked it out. But all good
Great.
so far.
And his son went up and gave him a hug. Some sons go the other way, so that's a good
Yes.
sign there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Frank?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe I'm speaking to the teachers and staff as well as the Zoom audience. When I decided to take on this role and run, I was pretty vocal and wanted to make sure people knew that they could come to me and I'd be as transparent and relay information as much as I possibly could. And you guys have taken me up on that in the last month or so. So know that I'm still trying to navigate what to do with all of your comments and concerns. And I think I've gotten back to everybody that's had them so far. And I've gotten to know Eric really well as I try and figure out all these, what I'm supposed to do here. So hopefully I'm doing it right. Thanks.
Great.
Thanks, Frank. We're glad to have you. Stephanie?
Yes, and Frank, I'm going to say some things similar, but I just want to know, we didn't talk, and I have notes, so we both thought of similar things. So I first just want to say I hope everybody had a nice and restful February break. I know March is kind of a big push academically as we get into spring. Planning for testing and promotion. I'll be here before we know it. I just had the opportunity to go to the reading night over at Spreckels for a little bit right before our meeting. It was great to see so many families, so many students, so much engagement, and look forward to that continuing, going back to, it feels like a good year, especially after these last couple years. I'm excited to be here for our monthly business. I spend a lot of time prepping and try to be prepared for our meetings. I bring questions, clarifications to our public discussion because I often have questions as I spend a lot of time in our 300-page document. And chances are that my colleagues or the public might have similar questions. And it feels like a good forum for information sharing and discussion here as a public meeting. I want to acknowledge that I'm here to serve our community and our stakeholder groups, and people are welcome to reach out to me with questions and concerns directly via email. It's on the district website. My email signature has all my contact information as well, because I really truly value hearing from everybody. And then my final note, I just happened to come across an article over the last month, and I thought it was really relevant for a couple of reasons. The title of the article was in the New York Times, Teen Girls Report Record Level of Sadness, CDC Finds. And it stated that adolescent girls are having high rates of sadness and suicidal thoughts, as did teens who identified as gay or bisexual. The conclusion was that young people are in crisis. It was noted that depression symptoms are often exhibited differently by boys and girls. 57% of girls and 69% of gay, lesbian, or bisexual youth reported feelings of sadness every day for the last 2 weeks in the previous year. More than 1 in 5 lesbian, gay, bisexual youth reported attempting suicide in the year before the pandemic. So why am I sharing this? Why am I sharing this here? Why now? Well, there's some positive information coming out of this. Their recommendation: healthy relationships at school can improve the mental health of our youth. It was a long time looking through all these documents. So, quote from the article is, young people who feel connected in middle school, very relevant for us, and high school, 20 years later have better mental health, are less likely to be perpetrators or victims of violence, to use substances, or attempt suicide. School connectedness is a very powerful protective factor. That's still part of the quote, okay, end quote. Again, school connectedness is a very powerful protective factor, end quote. I just want to commend and thank our district and all the teachers and all the staff and everybody involved in building a community that cares, so that each of our students know and feel inside that they're important and valued. So, thank you.
Sobering and inspiring.
I had to make sure I could get through it.
Right, yeah. And your notes went around the corner. I don't have anything that's sobering or inspiring, but we had a good conversation with the teachers over. Mr. McDougall and I went over and visited with the teachers over at BV, and we're going to be over at Spreckels on Monday. And it's nice to know that you folks are worried about the same things that we're worried about, you know, and that we have some issues that we can work on together. So we really appreciated the conversation. So please tell Mr. Dodd and the rest of your faculty. All right. Oral and written communications. We all got this nice handbook on the Brown Act from Lozano Smith, and that'll be good for us. And I don't think we got any other written. Well, I got something from our supervisor congratulating me on the election.
Did you say the email too? The one from the parent?
Oh, yeah. And we got an email from a parent that was talking about issues of morale at the schools and talking about the solar panel. Yeah. And we are, going to address both of those things immediately. Yeah.
Did it say that they wanted us to read it?
She didn't
No.
say, so I
Yeah,
just
she didn't say it, so not. I asked the same
just
question.
sharing with them.
Okay, superintendent report.
I agree with Steve and Kelly. This is a very bittersweet night because I'm thrilled for some people that are retiring and resigning, but I'm also scared to death what the next chapter will be. I'm confident that those people leaving have set such great structures in place that we should be fine, and they're going to do everything they can to help, right? But I do want to just acknowledge them. We will celebrate you throughout the next few months in spring, but starting with the music program, Mrs. Thompson came about 6 years ago, and she's literally transformed it. She is usually the first teacher on site. She's at 7:15. She meets the kids at Buena Vista 4 days a week, gets them going with their trumpet. I don't know how you listen to trumpets and other instruments at 7:15 without coffee. Yeah, but she's there every single day, grooming them and making them fine little musicians, right? And then she goes to Spreckels and over the 2 weeks touches every student in the school, giving them music instruction. Then often she comes back to Buena Vista and she teaches choir. So she's done such a good job of building a comprehensive music program. I can't thank her enough. She joked the other day, she goes, I thought I'd be here for 5 years, but I like you guys so much I stayed for 6. And she's she and her husband are moving to up north. Wonderful opportunity for her, so we're thrilled for her. Kate, I was a middle school principal for 16 years, so turning over the keys to the car or the office, one of the hardest things I've ever done. But you exceeded every expectation. You're fantastic, and you served during probably the 5 hardest years. Yeah, so right now there's three principals all time, Mrs. Barker, me, and you. So I hope that you've enjoyed. 3, that's it. So I hope you've enjoyed your 5 years. You're going to go spend time with your kids, which is wonderful. I told you after you told me, and my first reaction wasn't great, but then I said if you're my daughter, I'd say you're doing the exact right thing because that's where your heart is, and you don't get those years back. So I mean that. Yeah. And she's gonna, in Kate organizational fashion, she's gonna have everything dialed in. And I realized you arrived because this fall when I was there, subbing for you in your office, I was trying to set up fall conferences, and I was reminded by the secretary. That's not how Kate does it. So it's your office, and you've done a wonderful job. Thank you. And Veronica, boy, so I don't know what being a superintendent's like without Veronica, and it scares me a lot because she's so good at what she does. She's a wonderful CBO, one of the best in the county, but she's an even better person. So being around that kind of positivity and what you're saying, speak your truth. Just great inspirational quotes all day. But honestly, fun fact. Veronica and I make up the longest serving tandem in the county. 13 years. Yeah, there's been so much turnover. And so I thank you for the support. I'm pretty sure I would have been done after 2 or 3 years. It wasn't for you carrying me through. Monica and Veronica goes, we have to save you from you, and you have often. Thank you very much. And I know that as much as we'll miss you, you're going to have a wonderful time of retirement. She's going to put up tomatoes, which is, for people who aren't from the South, that's jarring tomatoes. So you enjoy your tomatoes. You're always. Thank you.
We're going to hold you to that.
But on behalf of you, rarely do you hear teachers speak about the CBO and what that has allowed them to experience and us to experience. And so you maybe don't know every single kid out there, but you've impacted every single one of them for 15 years or so. So thank you. Monica, are we ready? We're going to do this thing? All right. And so, again, bittersweet for sure. Just the last thing, just logistics or a reminder, Saturday is the rescheduled BB Library anniversary. Are you going to be there still?
I am.
The festivities start at 2 if you want to pop by. I don't know what, besides Dr. Chris saying some very wise things, I don't know what the day will hold. I'm sure we'll be reading books, but.
I have to say wise things. Okay, I'll write that down. Yeah. Kate, I wanted to say the same thing that he said. We're going through this. Oh, that's the right thing to do. Oh, we don't want her to go. Oh, that's the right thing to do. Oh, we don't want her to go. And I'm sure that the teachers are doing the same thing. When I left, the teacher said to me, we just got you trained. And you're leaving. Congratulations. Kate, do you have anything to say to us?
So, yep, I have officially put in my resignation for next year. I would lie if I was saying that I'm not a bit happy about it, just because I'm so excited to be able to stay home with my children. These last 5 years have been a whirlwind between, the pandemic and the fires and the floods, and I feel like every natural catastrophe has hit us in those 5 years, and it's been a lot. But I learned a tremendous amount, and I felt the backing of our community and of our district, and I really appreciate the time that I have spent here. So thank you to everybody who has been here along the way. And I do hope to come back and work in the district again in the future. But for now, I just am looking to take a few years to be with my family and be closer. And I feel lucky to be able to have that time. So
How soon? Oh. You say the word.
I don't even have a 1-year-old yet. So yeah, I've had 2 kids within a pandemic. So it's been a whirlwind, but it really, I even through it all, I'm really grateful that I was able to take the principal role. I started as a special educator in this district, and I have learned a tremendous amount. And I do think that this district has allowed me to have the growth possible, but also to have the support. And so, again, thank you to everybody. And thank you, Veronica, for everything that you've done too. We've had a great partnership these past 5 years, and I appreciate all that you do. I couldn't do your job. And it's impressive with everything that you do.
That job's going to be open. You
I
should
know,
apply for
thank
that.
you. And our music program, Mrs. Thompson is just one of the hardest workers. She has doubled that program. Last year, when there was all of the regulations about instruments indoors during the pandemic, she was out there every morning in our performing arts room with the doors open. And right now it's 39 degrees in the morning, and those kids and her would be out there happy, working away, and just the diligence of that program. So she performed for our staff yesterday and with the chorus, and it was amazing, and the kids all enjoy it. And so just such a tribute to have to our staff. In other news at Buena Vista, you guys saw a lot of recognition tonight. Basketball is now over. Spring sports are now running. We're doing wrestling, track, and golf. All teams have been finalized at this point. We start trimester 3 next week. All students have picked their new elective classes, and will have their first new elective of trimester 3 on Friday next week. And we're in trimester 3, which means we are moving. 8th grade gets even faster as we start talking about the end of the year and promotion. And we'd love all of you to attend our 8th grade promotion, and we'll be out on the Buena Vista field on the last day of school at 4 o'clock again. But yeah, we're moving. We're having a great time over at BV, and a lot of fun activities are starting to happen in this last trimester of the year. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Kate. The new guys haven't seen the baby pictures, Kate. The new guys haven't seen the baby pictures, so yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, they'll be in our schools here soon.
Lindy has 1 more year, and then she's
Wow.
then she's a TKer.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're going to be tough on teach. No, what kind of mom are you going to be?
That's why I'm out of the principal world.
Yeah.
Okay, obviously nothing from Teresa. SUEF, PTO, Bobcat Club. No. Okay, Veronica, information about the fund balance report.
Yes, this is activity through February 28th. We are 2/3 of the way through the year, and this is another month, this is 3 months in a row now, that we actually have an operating surplus, meaning that we've received more revenues than we have expended. So that is actually really good news. This budget reflects the second interim budget revision that you will be, you'll see the second interim report later in the agenda, but we can still run this report with all of those budget changes in place, so we can see, what things look through, at least the projected look through the end of the year. The end of year budget projection does show a deficit of $62,000. Oh, thanks, dear. So, back to the deficit, projected deficit. So, we typically don't like to adopt a budget with a deficit. And the reason that this 62,000 is sitting here is because you may recall with our negotiated agreement with both the classified and certificated bargaining units, we issued a one-time payment of $2,500 per FTE. Those funds are actually designated in the reserve. They're paid for out of one-time monies, but we have to declare them, include them in the budget when we go through the AB 1200 process. So that is really an overstatement of the deficit. And we'll talk more about that when we get into the second interim report, because we do make a notation of that for the county office, who will soon be reviewing our report. If you have any other specifics about these fund balance reports, just reach out. We can go over it.
Okay. You want to continue through the program update?
So facilities, we've been watching the weather, and it's been pretty impressive that we've had no more issues with all this rain than we have had. So I want to thank Jaime and his team, all the custodians, Robert. They're really paying attention on the daily, coming back from either the wet weekends or last week. Obviously, the kids weren't here, so it was kind of a nice catch-up week for everyone. We've also started the installation of one of the components of the Syserco project. Last week, again during the break, we had the plug management equipment installed, which are these devices that actually go into our electrical sockets that manage the time of day that equipment is drawing energy. So we've gotten one component of the Syserco project off the list. Brianna will soon be aligning the dashboard to schedules for each of these pieces of equipment to times that make sense for them to be turned off. And on the restroom project, I hope to issue the notices of completion tomorrow or Monday. We've been watching the impact of this rain on the building to ensure that all of the additional sumps and drainage issues that we dealt with along the way have been working as planned. And so I'm hoping
So
again.
the stove's been our proof of construction.
No, it's
Very
actually
handy.
been a
It's
really
good
good
test.
test because if we hadn't had this rain, we'd be like a week after the warranty expired that we'd
Right.
get a big storm and we'd see an issue. So we technically have not taken the notice. We have not issued the notice of completion because I want all of those issues resolved before we start the warranty date. We have a 365-day warranty. So that's what's going on in facilities. On food service, it's been pretty quiet because we did have a week off. And on transportation, we have a new hire. You see his name in the board packet. His name is Fred. He comes to us from down south, and he is on his own route now. He spent a couple weeks training, shadowing to learn a route. And as you know, he replaced he filled a vacancy and was being covered, which was being covered by a substitute driver. So we still are only at 3 drivers, designated drivers. We're going to retain the routes as they are currently designed, which was contracted from what the routes were when we started the school year. And Heather will start to look at expanding those routes as we want Fred to have ample time to become familiar with all of the routes. We do cross training, so if another driver is out, someone can cover for them. So we'll maybe have more information on that in the next 4 weeks before the next board meeting to see if we've expanded some of the routes. But we're still hoping that we can fill these other positions. We've had no takers yet, but we got one, so we're grateful.
Heather, can I get a thumbs up for Fred? Okay.
He's also doing our food service. He's doing the driving for the food service. So that's a huge relief because it releases Jaime, who's had been doing that this whole time, back to focus on his maintenance projects. So.
Great. Okay, class configuration.
All right, this is it. Matriculation number 1, projection number 1 for 2023-24. And we aren't going to get too nervous yet because, again, it's just the first round. And I'm going to take you to the second page, which just gives you our starting point. So at this point, based on the students that are here and the students who have responded to our request to let us know if they intend to return or not, we are projecting an enrollment of 842. We do have 52 interdistrict transfers on the list. None have been approved yet. Of those 52, 40 have been released from their district. So that's a really good number because that means we could grab all 40 of those. But what we start doing is looking at where there's room in classrooms. So, for example, we clearly have lots of growth or lots of room in kindergarten. Actually, we have room in against all grades. But my point is those interdistrict transfers are looked at line by line, grade level by grade level, connections with siblings, not siblings, before they are approved. And tomorrow or possibly Monday, we will be beginning our district registration. Our formal announcement will go out. Registration is beginning for our in-district students. So that's usually when we see the growth in kindergarten and TK as well. So we will track this every month. Actually, we'll track it locally every week, but we'll bring you a report monthly and you'll start to see This change and hopefully continue to grow, that 842, which maybe we say it's really 882 if we took all of those interdistricts. We may not. It depends on the situations. But we need this to grow. Our current enrollment is 918. So we have a long way to go to get there. And we need to get there. We actually need to be beyond there because otherwise we're going into a third year of declining enrollment that does have some fiscal implications.
Yeah. Okay, any questions? No?
Stop. So 842 responded to the request about whether or not they were going to return.
Right.
Correct.
Do we have any metrics on how many people or families did not plan to return?
And there's actually a pie graph. I think it's like 2 or 3%. And out of those 3, a lot of them were the parents misread it, and they were 8th graders going to high school. So just a few.
Okay.
And there's a handful. Like there's quite a few. Handful 5th grade going to 6th grade in Palma, and they let us know. That's expected. So it's not a matter of an exodus out. That wasn't really the issue. This is a state trend right now, the decline enrollment. But like Veronica says, we have a lot of room in kindergarten, and we have a lot of interdistricts for kindergarten. So
Yeah,
we're hoping that the number will come up.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Between TK and Kinder, there's 24. 16 have been released. 16 have been released in those 2 grade levels, and 8 are pending release.
And this is also the year that transitional kinder gets another 3 months. So we should see some more naturally come in for those 3 months.
So we will be watching this and doing scenarios for class configurations within grade levels, because it may be, for example, that we're looking at first grade with 82 and second grade with 85, and though that class size is lovely, it's not. There's a sweet spot between the fiscal impact to a class size at 20. Getting to 24, 25 changes the story. So like this year we have a combo class. It could be the same scenario where we have a K, a 1-2 or a 3-4. Well, usually it's K1, 2-3, and 3-4 that we combine because of 4-5, because of just what makes sense with the curriculum.
And for the new board members, as far as setting the number 22, 25, for transitional kinder, we need to keep a 20-to-1 ratio because you have to have 2 adults per child. So 20-to-1 is what we look for there. Grades K through 3, we load at 25-to-1, and then the other grades 29. So that's why you'll see different at each grade level. There's a different threshold.
Okay, any questions about this? Let's move on to quarterly county treasurer's report.
This is routine in nature and nothing significant to report. It's just one of those,
Documentation.
yeah, it takes 60 pages of the document that.
Okay. The annual financial report.
So this is fiscal year ending 21-22. There were no significant changes. We do have a finding at the very end of the report that, if I can get to that page, it's related to a GASB, which is the generally accepted accounting principle. I'm sorry, GAPS, generally acceptable accounting principles. And let me just jump to that page because it's actually related to the report that the quarterly treasurer's report.
Right.
So when we close the books, we close in September. We present it to you at the September board meeting. And so there's a requirement it's actually in its second year that we have to post a fair market value of our cash. And that comes from the cash that the county treasurer manages and then submits. And then there is a set of assumption that creates this calculations. It's either over 1 or less than 1, like dollar for dollar. It's an accounting strategy. Well, this year the treasurer's report came after we submitted the unaudited actual, so we physically could not have done the entry. So the auditors know this. They wrote the finding. We've got a corrective action plan in place. To me, it's immaterial because it's just a posting value. But it is kind of a bummer that my second to the last audit has a finding, because I've had a pretty good record.
Yeah. Straight A's.
But, you know, these gap principles change every year. There's constantly things being added, taken away that complicate things. So, but it doesn't have a significant impact to our fund balance, which is what, to me, drives all of our budget development. We know what we think we're starting with. We get revenue, we spend money, and then we have an ending balance. So,
Yeah. And you're not the only one that had that particular.
no, it happened
finding.
across the county, actually. It's the second year of this, and so what we need to do is partner with the Monterey County to get these treasurers report to us much earlier in the process, because we close so much earlier than most districts because of just the schedule of our board meetings. You have to have this thing done by September 15th. It has to be to the county office. I mean, you can certainly ask for an extension or an exception, but that's not good either. But we always meet the very first week of September, so we're losing a 2-week work period, which is wonderful for me. Like, after the September board meeting, it's great because then we're done. But then when something like this happens and you miss it, you're like, oh, if I'd have had another week, we could have fixed that. But
Okay. Ready to go to the action items? So let me make sure I do this correctly, Veronica.
okay.
So this is the 2023 budget guidelines. Do you want to say anything about that, or should we go to the motion?
You should go to the motion to open it, and then we can discuss, and then you can take your vote.
All right. So can I have a motion to approve the 2023 budget guidelines? Second?
Second.
Okay. All right. Now,
Okay, so at the last meeting, I presented to you the budget guidelines, the calendars, and the first set of assumptions, and we talked about the reserve and my request to designate, well, really, first a background on the reserve. We are required by law to keep 4% of our total expenditures of the year. So it's a dynamic number. It changes every budget revision. And when we were going through the Great Recession, we decided that we wanted, and the state was deferring cash, so we were getting 70 cents on the dollar. We decided to increase the reserve to cover 2 months worth of salary in case we had to go out and get what they call a trans, which is a advance on cash, borrow cash at 3 or 6%. Never a situation we want to be in, and never have been in. But so we decided to increase the reserve. Well, that was 2010, 11, 12. It's been a long, long time, and our salaries have obviously increased. So that 7.5% does not even cover a month's salary. And with the uncertainty of the economic forecast, I just think it's time, and the health of our reserve, to change this guideline. And so I did a calculation on what that would cost to cover 2 months of salary, which has been the practice of the reserve. That would require increasing it to 17%, or $1.1 million. I think that's too big of a jump at one time. So I did option 2, which was to go 10% to a 10% reserve, which would require a $350,000 contribution or designation or assignment to the current reserve level. So we brought this as information, which is how we always do the guidelines, the budget calendar, and the assumptions. But I think it was Steve or one of y'all that wanted to have this be an action item this month. So the second time you're seeing it. The numbers may have changed ever so slightly because this is now being built on second interim budget revision, whereas the last one was the budget revision number 4, the CSDA budget revision. But the concept is what I'm looking for. Do you want to stick with 7.5%? Do you want to go with 10%? So don't stay so focused on the amount, because that's going to change on the daily if we were actually booking it daily, which we don't. But I mean, we never really do book it except on paper. It's never like taken out and put somewhere. It's not put anywhere. It's
Is the motion for 10%? Is that what the
my
motion is?
recommendation is 10%, which is why I left it blank. And so that's what I share, and y'all discuss or ask questions, or you can do nothing and it stays at 4.5% or 7.5%.
The 10% is the conservative number, or the 7.5% is the conservative number? Was there something greater than 10%?
Yes, the conservative number is 17%. 1 point. If the goal is, and it may not be that now, but originally the guideline, the goal was to have payroll covered for 2 months. So if we got into a situation where the state started deferring revenue again, because back in the Great Recession, that was one of the accounting mechanisms that the state used. They were saying, oh, no, we're not cutting your revenue because we're not collecting state taxes or sales tax or all the things that fund the state of California, which is mostly personal income tax on the top 1%. But, sorry, I'm distracted thinking about that top 1% paying.
Basically, they give you 80 cents on the dollar and
Yeah.
tell you to go borrow your other 20 cents. We'll pay you back later.
And
That's
so
great, yeah.
the whole theory was cash. You've got to hold your cash, and if you can't make your payroll, which is the most important, I mean, we could negotiate with vendors, move it out 45 days, whatever, right? But we can't not pay folks, and so we came up with that calculation because we decided that based on the process of borrowing money, it could take anywhere from 30 to 45 days if we had to go out and borrow money. You can't just like. Yeah, it's a process. We know. We all know this. Things have been better, right? But now we're in another economic uncertainty. The forecast is, we just don't know. And today, I think it was today or yesterday, the state, they first pushed out the tax collection. Typically, it's April. They pushed it out to May because of the winter storms, the first round of storms, and now they've pushed it out to October for this last round of storms. It's not all counties, and I haven't delved into the weeds on it, but that is going to have a huge impact on us building the next year's budget because we don't know what those revenue collections are. So the state, the governor will present his May revise in May, but his assumptions are not going to be actuals. Usually he builds the May revise on the April tax collection. So there's a possibility, and they may be conservative. I hope they are. I know the LAO will be, and we will be, but too much information. My request is 10%. Talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah. So procedurally, where we are is we've got a motion to approve the budget guidelines. We can make an addendum to be 10%, 7.5%, 17.5%, and a vote on the amendment, and then we'll vote on the motion. So, anything anybody wants to say about 7.5, 10%, or 17%, or any other number that you choose to insert? Go ahead, Stephanie.
No, I appreciate your recommendation for 10% because, of course, when I was going through the documents, the first one was the 17.5.
Yeah.
And, you know, about
Yeah.
because I think it was an additional, not even including what we currently have in reserves, like 1.1 million.
Right.
And I just thought, oh my gosh, that seems like a lot to essentially set aside that we can't touch without board approval. And I know I kind of expressed some concerns last month because I know, you know, we have theoretically, I know we were looking at a lot of financial documents this month, about 37% of our current fund balance is it's not reserves because it's not reserved, but it's available to us. It's not restricted. So I know we have that flexibility, and I like to have the flexibility of being able to spend the funds. So that's why I really appreciate the recommendation for 10%. I would feel much more comfortable with that.
So this is a lot of detail, but this is the detail, and it's important, I think, to kind of look at this because this is these first, 411, that's like where we start. That's the reserve where we start, and then we start peeling off things that we've either made assignments for, or we have had. Some of them are actually commitments. For example, I always reference this one: the compensated absences. Those are commitments. Those are for employees that were employed as of June 30th who had a vacation balance, and if they were to leave, you have to pay them off. So that is a committed dollar. So we just start peeling things out, and everything that is not committed or assigned to something that we know is going to happen, I dump the balance of it into facilities repair. So this is where you see the impact of that change to the reserve. If we were to go to 1.1, if we were to add an additional 1.1, because we're already adding 482, that's the state requirement. 422, that's the extra 3.5%. 1.1 million, that's moving to 17% to cover 2 months worth of payroll. Well, the facilities is who takes the big hit on that again, because you see it drop $1 million, right? Whereas on the 10%, it's 350. It's it's a third of it. So it's less painful, and this is for budget development. This is for 23, 24. And it may be, I think it would be prudent to adopt the budget with this scenario, because even if the governor, whatever he gives us in May, that's what we will build our budget on, because that's what we have. That's the information at the moment. But by the time the legislature negotiates, the governor negotiates with the legislature, and we get an adopted budget, we're going to be in August, maybe September, and it might be a completely different scene, and we can change it.
Yeah.
You can actually change it every board meeting. I wouldn't suggest doing that, but you could. So,
Okay. Any other discussion? I hear Stephanie being ready to drop the 10% number in there. So that would be the amendment. Somebody want to second that amendment? Okay. All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And now we can go back and vote on the motion, which is to approve the budget with that 10% number dropped into that blank. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0-1.
thank you for indulging me.
Oh, thank you for
That was a fun exercise.
figuring that all out. All right, now.
I wish you would have put the 7.5% before the
Yeah,
17.
Yeah.
Of course, I saw that one first.
you made her hair stand up when she
No,
was
no,
reading
no.
that.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm
some big
trying
numbers
to
there.
I'm trying to align to why we did it, which is
Yeah.
the 2 months of payroll.
No, yeah.
There's
Yeah.
yeah. it's-
Okay. A motion to adjourn to public hearing, please.
Move to adjourn the public hearing.
Thank you. Second.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so now we're in public hearing to hear any comments that the public has about the school district and Spreckels Teachers Association initial bargaining process. We don't have any public, so I'm assuming there's no public agenda. Motion to adjourn from public hearing.
Move to adjourn from public hearing.
Thank you.
And I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 4-0-1. Consideration and, let me do it this way. I'd like to receive a motion to approve the consideration public notice of the district's initial proposal to STA's collective bargaining agreement and sunshine of the STA initial proposal for the fiscal year 2023-24. Can I have a motion?
Go ahead.
I'll move it.
Okay. Second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Stephanie, anything to say about this?
Veronica?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Veronica, I'm sorry. Yeah, Stephanie, do you have anything?
I was not prepared for that.
You can say something
I
later.
know. No, this is very routine in nature. The contract actually dictates that every year, before you're in the reopener phase at the end of the third year, you open compensation and benefits. The teachers also selected Article 11, class size and classroom conditions. We'll find out what specific things are going on within that article of the contract once we meet with them. And the district, we selected a article to be determined at a future time. And this has been our practice because unless we have a hot issue that we know we need to address, resolve, work together to resolve, we leave it as unnamed, so that if something were to come up during the year, all of a sudden, oh wow, we need to talk about this, and we've sunshined it, so we can do it without having to hold another public hearing.
Okay. Any discussion from the board? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0-1. Motion to approve the 2022-23 second interim report, including balances, blah, blah, blah. Can I have that motion?
Blah blah blah. It is just that.
Yeah, I just need a motion to get it on the table.
I'll motion it.
Okay. Second? Okay.
All right, this is our last budget revision of the year. So, second interim captures all transactions through January 31st, and then we build in any projections, knowing what we know of the governor's January budget. We've picked up all of our negotiated agreements with the teachers, with the CSEA, with the management team, and we are certified to be positive, which means that we can meet our financial requirements, our obligations in the current and 2 subsequent years. And so you can see here, I'm just bringing attention to the note that I made back in that fund balance report where you saw that we were in deficit budget year. This is the reason. There was a $98,000 and a $40,000 respective contribution and one-time payments to the bargaining units. That will drop off the budget as we roll forward. And then in the subsequent years, you see big swings in the revenue side of things. I just want to jump to the summary page because I think it's really interesting. You see big swings on the revenue, whether it's from, for example, you can see we're dropping 76% on federal dollars from subsequent year 23-24 to the second subsequent year 24-25. This is the end of the CARES Act. This is where you see all of that COVID money by next year it's spent out. So we have a huge drop in revenue on that. Fortunately, the state, knowing this was coming, they made a big fat contribution of undesignated monies, and we're pushing that into it. It almost washes completely, 79, 76, 20. So what this speaks to is what I believe has been very good multi-year planning. Because when we first got all that money and it was just pouring in and we were buying masks and sanitizers and devices, and we really took a measured approach. And when I finished this report and started kind of analyzing the results, knowing what our plan was, I just it was good, Eric. It was good. And so if things hold on this first round of assumptions, we have done no layoffs. We have some natural attrition. We've picked up step and column, which is everyone's additional years of service. We do not have the splitting of my positions in this multi-year future projections yet, but now that we have some direction, or we will soon when we get to those action items, that will be considered in the development of the budget. But you can see in year 2 and 3, we have a little bit of flexibility if enrollment holds. That's the other big assumption. But we're projected to have an excess of $463,000 in year 2 and $149,000 in year 3. But round 1, it's good. Positive certification.
Okay. So, any questions for Veronica about the 22-23 second interim report? All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So the motion passes 4-0-1. And then we have the accompanying resolution that has to be approved by roll call vote, kind of certifying this. So can I have a motion to approve by roll call vote this resolution?
All motions approved.
Second? Veronica, you want to say anything other than what I just said about it? It's just certifying this. Okay, so we're ready for a vote. Frank?
Aye.
I vote aye. Steve's not here. Stephanie?
Aye.
And Peter?
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes 4-0-1. Motion to approve the 22-23 home to school transportation plan.
My motion.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
This is just an extra requirement of the state this year. It's kind of like a narrative of explain that we do have transportation. We make sure that certain groups of students have access. Heather does a wonderful job. So this is just a new requirement. There's no new information. It's just coming to you differently.
Okay. Any comments about this?
Yeah, my comment was I didn't know what this was and why we were looking at
First time I've
this.
seen it,
Like
too.
I was,
That's Veronica. There's a reason behind it.
Yeah, no,
There's a
in the
budget reason.
in the state budget there is 2 things happening on the allocation side of transportation revenue. For the first time, they're putting a COLA in the allocation that was time-stamped the day that LCFF was born, which is 2012, 2013. So we've been receiving $225,000 since the LCFF. There's never been an increase, even though our costs obviously go up. The state has never made any more of a contribution. So this year they came up with a formula that, okay, we'll give you 60% of what you spend. Well, we don't spend 60%. We we don't meet that threshold. You can see that 60% of the expenses currently at 300,000, 60% of that is 178, but they already give us 225. So they're not giving us any more. But we will be in 23, 24 getting the COLA on that. So that's about 8%, which is something. It's something. And also our expenses this year are down because we're not fully staffed. But this report will be ongoing, so there could be a time that we get some relief. But
Okay. Any other questions about this? All in favor of approving the home to school transportation plan, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 401. 2022 through 23 through 24, 25, Valley LLP Audit Services. Can I have a motion to approve that contract?
All motion.
Thank you. Second?
this is our auditors. They do 3-year contracts, and it's up for renewal for the 22-23 year. I would love to continue with them. I think the new CBO may want to change directions. They may have a firm they've worked with and like to work with, but I don't know that this is the year to make that call. I'd like to see, I mean, we've worked with this firm my entire career here. Not the same people, and it actually wasn't even called Ide Bailey. They've changed their name, but we just have a great long-term relationship. They know how we do things.
They were also upset you were retiring, by the way. They were upset too.
They were a little upset. They
My
asked if they
sense
needed
of-
to call you and beg.
My sense is that we'll take a recommendation of our current CBO as opposed to our future CBO.
Thank
on
you.
this.
Okay.
Any comment or question? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 401. California Department of Education request for allowance of attendance due to emergency conditions. Can I have a motion to, motion to, thank you. Can I have that motion, Frank? Thank you.
I'll motion it again.
Second. Have a second? Can I have a second? Thank you. Okay.
This is the required paperwork and documentation for the 4 days we lost because of the storms. This is the waiver that says we don't have to make them up. And to make them up would redo a calendar, redo negotiations. So
Understood. Any questions? Roll call vote. Frank?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Steve's not here. Stephanie?
Aye.
Peter?
aye.
Okay, motion passes 4-0.
And what's important, this one requires wet signatures, right? So we need,
We need
Yeah.
all your signatures, yes. So
Yeah.
please don't run off
the
till.
last time we had to track them down, right?
Yeah. Well, and it was COVID that we were doing it.
Oh, that's right.
We weren't even meeting in person,
Right.
so we had to. Yeah. We're
Okay.
getting good at filling these out. This is our third one.
Hopefully last.
Yeah, hopefully.
Information under curriculum is a special education program update, which I suppose is Tammy.
There she is.
Yeah, wow.
She's been so excited about this.
Wakey, wakey.
So I'm gonna have my Veronica celebration too, because everybody gets one tonight.
Come on, y'all.
Apparently,
I'm not leaving for 6
I
minutes.
know,
feel
but
like-
I get the podium once a year.
Take your time.
I would like to thank you personally and professionally. I don't get to bring my students here for recognition for a lot of reasons, and I'm a very expensive program. And you have never made me feel like I cannot do what I think is right for the kids. And I appreciate that so much. I know when I go to county meetings every month, I am hearing tension between CBOs and the finance side of the house and the service side of the house. And I don't get that. And I appreciate that you are helping me help our vulnerable kids, and I am incredibly grateful. And I know that you have told me before that one of the highlights of your career is our wheelchair accessible bus. knowing that you are retiring, I have been looking high and low for a toy wheelchair accessible bus.
Don't say you found one.
I cannot find one, but I am trying for your retirement gift. So I'd like to thank you for helping me worry about one less thing for my responsibility for the district. So in terms of my responsibility for the district, our special ed program continues to be lively. We serve many students here in-house at BV and Spreckels with learning disabilities, orthopedic impairments, autism, speech language impairments, other health impairments. We also support, as the district is legally responsible for providing special education for all students that reside in the district boundaries. For some students, our in-house programming is not as sophisticated as it needs to be to meet the students' needs. When that happens, I seek out I seek outside placements, programs and regional programs for those kids. And when I say sophisticated and complicated needs, I'm talking about kids who might be nonverbal or who need G-tubes or who have significant seizure disorders, kids with significant emotional disturbances. For those kinds of kids, just our scale does not allow us to have the staff and the expertise to serve them in the way that they need to be served. So in cases like that, those students get referred for regional programs, but we, as their school district of residence, are legally obligated to fund that placement. And those are not inexpensive. And they often have very robust staffing and very specialized staffing to support those programs. And speaking of regional programs, we host some regional placement programs too. Both the elementary and the middle school host programs that are operated by the County Office of Education for deaf and hard of hearing students. In addition, the elementary school hosts a second county classroom for students in their functional academics, life skills kind of program. So in addition to the students that we are serving for special education in-house, we also have additional county-supported special education students on both campuses. Those students, to speak to a question that you asked earlier, Stephanie, have access to all of the facilities and all of the classrooms and are included in our general education classrooms as much as their educational plan calls for. So we open our doors and we count on other schools opening their doors to us when we need their support for our kids too. One thing that I want to specifically point out, we've seen a jump in special education eligibility in the last couple of years. And some of that is related, I think, to COVID. We've worked really hard on shoring up our general education intervention programs so that we make sure that we have a variety of supports in place before we consider special education eligibility. Parents recently, I would say, have been worried about their kids' education and saw firsthand during COVID when their kids were struggling. So I think we're still seeing some of that through increased in referrals by parents for special education assessment. So we're working to address that by shoring up our general education intervention program. And also, Dr. Hasegawa, when I presented the Life Applied Behavior Support contract, you asked why I was doing that, why it came to me. One of the reasons that I feel so strongly about having additional behavior support is because that is often a thing that gets a student referred for special education. And it's important to me to know for sure, are we managing behaviors leading up to a SPED referral appropriately, or are we just really looking at behaviors? So part of to help me mitigate this kind of increase in special education referrals. The reason that that increase in referrals and eligibility makes me nervous is combined with our declining enrollment, the state has a window in which they anticipate that we will find eligible students for special education, and that window is between 7 to 10%. We've historically been right there in a very comfortable, appropriate place. We're inching up, and we're just about in a dangerous zone right now with the number of students who we're serving compared to the declining enrollment. So it's more important than ever for a lot of reasons. It's right for the kids, but also the state will slap my wrist if I can't say, yeah, these are all appropriate special ed referrals. Any questions?
Just more of a comment than a question. The reason that, well, let me back up one step. There are many districts that spend all of their time at board meetings dealing with lawsuits brought in special ed cases. We don't do that in this district because of the work that you're doing. You're finding appropriate placements for these folks. You're reaching out to all these other agencies to make connections. We do have MCOE, which is a good support compared to other counties in terms of special ed. We do have a board and an administration that prioritizes that so that we're able to fund these things. But it's not an inexpensive program, and you spend hours and hours and hours beyond what we pay you to do to make sure that we can find all of those other systems. And I just really want to appreciate that.
She's really, really good.
Yeah.
I do spend a lot of extra hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somehow in 2 out of the last 4 Thanksgiving breaks, a student in foster care has popped up needing a placement during Thanksgiving break. And what that means is that me and my local agency supports are basting turkeys and talking about placements and setting up plans for Monday morning.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened during Thanksgiving break.
Yeah. Yeah.
You gotta find the right place for those.
Well, it's a tough job, and I know that you have your hands and probably your ear on a phone involved in almost every one of these kids because they have individualized plans, and you have to find the right pieces and parts out of the configurations that we have available to us. And so I really want to appreciate that, and thank you for that. Anything else from the
No, I
board?
also want to thank you. You have a very tough job. I've heard a lot of good things about it.
Oh, thank you. I drink a lot of coffee.
Maybe you should go in at 7:50 and have the trumpets play for you. Okay, well, thank you so much
Wait,
for
wait.
the
Oh,
report.
sorry. I have a question. So, and I feel like it might be a stupid question, but I just don't know, or maybe you can explain it. So, I understand it's very expensive to place students outside of our district in programs. Have we considered bringing those students back and compare those costs of what we're paying?
Yeah, part of, I feel my responsibility to the district is to go visit those students at their regional placement programs annually, to make sure that I still know who that kiddo is, confirm that they still reside in our district boundaries and that they're still our obligation, and see if their development has been such that we can appropriately serve them here. And we brought one back just this year, as a matter of fact, from our regional placement preschool program into our TK placement. Some of those observations were thwarted during COVID, and I'm getting back on track with those site visits now. And I will say that very often I go to those site visits and I think, yep, this is the perfect place for this kiddo, because some of those kids are just complicated. Early in my tenure at the district, I invited Dr. Turallo to come with me to one of the planning meetings off-site. I need to go to those regional programs when they are having their IEP meetings for the kids that we're responsible for. Dr. Torello came with me to one of those and he said, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, we got to pay for this kid to be at this special program. It can be complicated.
2, 3,
but
4 staff members at a time. Yeah.
specialized feeding programs, specialized seizure protocols, specialized.
But to get to Stephanie's question, we really do look for those opportunities to bring back, if and when we can, support them
And to provide services in
with
the
the appropriate
district.
services.
Right, absolutely. I mean, still meeting their needs,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like that's part of my responsibility when I source a regional program for a student. I still monitor that placement.
Tammy, if there's an appropriate moment for a visitor to accompany you on one of those, I'd be real interested in seeing that. Maybe some other board members would too, but thanks. again.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
Okay, action item, request for job share. Can I have a motion to approve? Second?
Second.
Okay. That's about it.
We recommended that you do approve it. This is just an opportunity for us to keep 2 wonderful staff members and support their growing families at the same time. So
What are they proposing?
it's a 60-40 split.
Yeah.
They'd be, and they're currently doing it this year, and they've done it really well.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Motion passes 401. First read on the CBO job description. Motion to approve, please.
I'll motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Okay. You're going to talk about it, Veronica.
So this is when it gets real.
Stephanie.
We are going to fly a position right here real soon. We can't. Yeah, she's rubbing it. We can't anticipate the market, so we'd like to make it as broad as possible to perhaps public and private individuals. What we'd like to do is kind of maybe revise some of the wording to capture that broadness, but send it out and float it right away. So we'd like to get the first read approved, pending some slight edits that we'll bring back to you again, and do it in a way that we can go out there. And if you approve the salary schedule, and when Monica has everything ready to go, like early next week.
Yeah, I'm not looking at Veronica boogieing over there.
Yeah, I know, that was weird, wasn't it?
Do you have specific recommendations on the edits that you're going to make?
Minimum qualifications, Veronica, what were you?
Yes, I'd like to expand the minimum qualifications to not just focus on public school experience. I mean, it does talk a little bit about educational equivalent to completion of college with a major in accounting or business administration. Like, I don't have a major in accounting or business administration, but I was given qualifying experience for a year-to-year basis based on education. And I did have a degree, but I also came from public school, so I had number 1 and I had some of number 2, but you might have somebody that has only one or the other. So we want to revise that language to allow us to cast whatever kind of net we may think we want, but also be narrow enough so that we are not inundated with 100 applications that we then have to screen and interview.
Ms. Monica, weigh in on this, but what I'm hearing you say is at that second dot, you wanted something at the end of that said or equivalent experience, or something like that.
Yes, actually, maybe it's even at the first dot, or maybe there's only one dot and it's all together. Maybe it's just, I don't know, we need to do some wordsmithing, and I'd like to do it with the review of actually the management team, because I think we all kind of see the value of job descriptions in our own positions, and what would make sense in terms of what we're hoping to attract to the district and to the team. So it may circulate between all of us just in terms of what makes sense. Because I've had individual conversations. Everyone's been very lovely. Thank you all for the kind words. But it's interesting what individually people think of what my role is. And some of them are close. Some of them are not even close. But I mean, I'm not saying that in a bad way, but it's just interesting. Even though we work right alongside each other, we really don't know what the skills are so specialized. So Yeah, we would just like the leeway to make changes to the minimum qualifications to not put us in this very strict limitation on who we can screen through to a panel interview with a group that includes staff and then successful candidates.
But also
Right.
flat right away pending the changes.
Yeah, we don't want to wait another month to bring you that back.
Okay, anything from the board?
I just have a
This way?
question, but so and again, I am not familiar with these positions necessarily outside of this district, but the food service. So I know we took out maintenance, and that's I think going to the facilities manager, right?
Right.
And but what about food service and transportation? Would that does that typically fall under the CBO, or would it go to a facility?
Yes, it does. It absolutely does follow under the business office. And if you look at org charts across most districts, all of the components that are the function is business. There's a, as opposed to instruction, will go to the CBO, unless of course you're fortunate enough to have a director of food service, which we don't. Or a director of transportation. We have a transportation coordinator, but it's a CSEA position. If we could make that a management position, that would be wonderful. I don't know that CSEA would give that up, but there's also a balance of management positions to, well, the first ratio is to certificated staff. We actually have to meet there's a calculation we have to do annually that we have a appropriate ratio for an elementary district of certificated staff to management. So you can't just stack up on soups, assistant soups, and
Okay.
not have teachers.
So let me
Yes.
see. Are you saying under essential functions, you would like to see something that specifically talks about food services management?
Wait a minute. Say that again.
Okay, so under essential functions, it sounds to me like you're saying it would be good to have something that specifically mentions the food services part.
Well, it does. No,
Oh.
it does in the
She was
CBO.
wondering if that was typical, right?
Right, and,
Oh.
as opposed to if that would be in the facilities.
Oh, no, but yeah.
Position.
Okay, so you answered the question.
Yeah.
Okay. Frank?
Well, this is a work in progress, so I'm not sure what we're going to vote on if we don't see what the final read looks like right now. So
Yeah.
are we voting to have it be a work in progress? That's what we're
Well,
voting on?
Right.
That's what she suggested.
There's two things happening. Actually, that's a really great point. My current job description is a combination of this job description and the job description that follows for the maintenance, because I have my current job description is CBO/DOF, Director of Facilities. I took all of the facility pieces out and put them in a facilities, so I split them, 2 new job descriptions. And then I took any reference out of this that was to the district maintenance, and you can see the strike through, and added, took out the maintenance because that person is going to be responsible for the maintenance program.
With all the accolades we've heard today about you and the big shoes that we're going to fill, I think you are the best person to write the job description, but I don't know how we vote on something that we
Right.
don't know what we're voting on.
Yeah, that's exactly my problem with it. So can you go back up to minimum calls? So I don't see what we would be editing in this part that would cause us to cast a wider net. And I'd rather approve it as written so that we have something concrete in front of us than to say, we approve it and you're gonna go off and edit it. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. So unless you have a specific recommendation for what we're gonna edit, I'd rather approve something that's,
Well, Veronica, you had mentioned adding language that says or equivalent of.
Correct.
but it's in the second bullet.
Well, it's in the second for, it's that first line, 3 to 5 years of increasingly responsible public school experience. 3 to 5 years public school experience. That is a narrow,
Is there
Right.
something that obligates this board to approve a job description before it goes to
No.
publication?
we can post a position saying that the job description is under review, and then bring that back to you.
How about if we just strike public school? Would that put us in the right situation?
There two things can be true at the same time, right?
Yeah.
That maybe shouldn't be true. We want to not be too narrow, but we also don't want to be too wide. So if you strike public school and just say 3 to 5 years of increasing responsibility and preparation of maintenance of financial statistics, you could be a bookkeeper who's doing AP, cutting AP checks, which is a very important job, but that is not this job.
I understand.
I think Frank asked an appropriate question, and the response is that we don't have to approve it, and you can go and start your search and see what you get back and come up back and make a report, and we could even come back in 2 weeks to deal with that. So we don't really have to take action on this right now.
I
Do we?
think that the action would be, number one, that we split it apart because we need a CBO standalone and we need a facilities manager standalone, and that you approve that with the knowing it's the first read, and we've had a good discussion. It's on the record, it's on the tape, that we are going to refine the minimum qualifications now that we have the 2 job descriptions. And the reason that we didn't do this ahead of time was because we weren't even sure that you would want to go with 2 management job descriptions. There are some districts that have a CBO and they may have a lead facilities supervisor, but they're not necessarily a management person. I
Okay.
believe this.
Yeah, so we've got 2 motions. One is the first read for the chief business officer. The second one's the first read for the facility manager job. If we approve those 2, we're approving the split of the positions, which is the important part of what we're doing tonight. And then the management administration can go off and start recruiting for those positions using what we've got, and we can come back and revise the position description next meeting, saying, okay, this is what we need to do.
I'll
That.
move to approve the first read of the chief business
Thank you.
official job description.
Second,
I'll second it.
any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 401. And now the first read for the facility manager job description?
Very similar
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, but, I mean, unless you guys feel, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, you moved?
I need
Oh,
to-
sorry. I'll second it.
Thank
Okay,
you.
any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 401. Thank you, guys. All right, salary schedule, management salary schedule.
You have a motion? Or you're gonna...
Oh, yeah, can I get a motion to approve the management salary schedule?
I'll motion to approve.
Second.
Thanks. And second,
Now, this is something we do need approved to go out to post. Right. And there was some logic here, was based on daily rate of other management positions, taking in the days of work. So there's a method to it.
The only ones that are changed from what we
red,
approved currently when we did the across the board for all members are the ones in red.
okay. And you did the, comparing this to other districts, and can you talk about that a little
Combination,
process?
we started there, but then we did some internal comparisons of daily rate.
We did.
And days worked. So combination, yes, we looked at what's out there, but to be quite honest, what's out there ranges very broadly.
But we're someplace in the middle of that rather than
Yeah.
one of the ends.
Right. We're definitely not in extremes.
Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 401. All right. Now, resolution 2223/17. Can I have a motion to approve that by roll call vote? This is on reelection of temporary or probationary employees.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay. Yes, a
No real comments. Yeah, it's standard.
Okay. Any questions on the board? All in favor? Oh, we got to do, Frank?
Aye.
I say aye. Stephanie?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
And Steve's not here, so the motion passes 401. Any committee updates?
Yeah, actually, we kicked off LCAP season this couple days ago on Monday, and we'll be meeting regularly until we bring you a draft for your approval. There's about 20 members total, and it's pretty even split between parents and staff, different, CSCA teachers, management. The first meeting, we just really went over the process, kind of talked about the state priorities, what has to go into the goals. We reviewed current goals and our actions, and now we will start moving into gaining more feedback. I'll be doing a parent survey in the next month. That's annual, that gives us feedback on our current LCAP, but also asks families to kind of prioritize programs. So yeah, that's LCAP. The Equity Committee will hold its third and final training with the MSOE on March 14th, which is not next week? Week after. Week after next.
Week after.
And that's a third of the equity training. And we will hold our second DLAC. DLAC again is for the District English Language Advisory Committee, basically families of our English learners. Mrs. Villarengo and I will, at that meeting, kind of explain the upcoming testing for those students called LPAC. And so we're going to do it in April, early April, and she's going to kick off the testing in late April. So the parents will have an idea of what's being tested and how they'll be tested.
Right.
And that's it for committees.
Okay, now facilities report,
Facilities where we
or committee. Recommendation for food service program.
Yeah, it's actually a formal recommendation. So if you want to get a motion, then we'll explain what it actually is.
Can I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Second?
Second.
At the last meeting, I summarized it. Our facility committee met right before our last meeting, so we really didn't have time to put the recommendation in here. But we discussed a few things. We discussed our food service program. We discussed potential partnerships with CFS, which is a consultant group. But the recommendation, I think, was Frank's your representative. A couple people here. We have a rep from STA. We took a look at our current food service program and weighed what we've learned this year. Veronica's reached out to 2 or 3, another CBO, a director of food service, and just trying to get an idea about district our size. Can we be self-operating? Why would we want to be? What's wrong with the current system? And through that process of looking at what we're doing now, we reached out to current staff, and the recommendation is to keep it where it's at now. This whole conversation, I think, started because we thought we were going to either lose our partnership with Salinas City or change drastically. When we got our box truck, that relationship improved, right? It was a great marriage tool. I mean, it's like, oh, they like us again, kind of thing, right? Well, I mean,
That's
it was
the key, a new
basically it was it.
car.
Once we could actually, yeah, a new car always just thing. Once we were able to pick up our own food, the relationship is solid, and they actually have, I think they've committed, like we do have a long-lasting relationship.
Yeah, they've committed. It was really driven by staffing issues. They were short-staffed coming back out of COVID, and then the real impact of the program was universal meals, which is a wonderful thing. For the first time, everyone eats, regardless of their status, regardless of, we don't keep track of who can pay and who can't pay. It's free for all. And then we added breakfast. So the actual delivery of the program has expanded beyond what we could even have imagined. So
And in some of the conversations, they said if you are going to undertake this, you need to be prepared to have some of the director of food service, because you're going to have to go out there and secure all these different contracts for lettuce, for meat, for whatever. And we're not even close to that yet.
So the recommendation is that we continue on
Status
with.
quo, is that right, Frank? Yeah, pretty much.
Yep, that's what I was asking what the recommendation was.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else, Frank?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0-1. The final read for the September 2022 policies per guide sheet. Either we got those comments into you or we entered them ourselves into the process. Somebody want to move that to approve? Second. Any discussion needed? No? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0-1. Similarly with the December 2022 policies.
I'll move that.
Thank you. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 4-0-1. First read of the school calendar. Somebody want to move to approve?
I'll move that.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Okay.
So we reconvened our calendar committee, made up of principals, teachers, Veronica, Heather represents CSCA, and we start with our current template, and we go from there. This is very similar to the current one, not identical. There's like 3 guiding criteria when we're doing this. One is instructionally, is it the best for kids? Meaning, are you avoiding 3-week breaks if you could avoid them, because that's learning loss? Are you making decisions that will be fiscally the most responsible? Meaning, you're not setting up a week that would say, oh, there's 3 days off, why not take the whole week? So you try to do it strategically. Don't give parents like a reason to take extra days. And then finally, we do our best, and it's very hard to overlap as much as possible with Salinas Union High School. It's not a perfect overlap, and they, quite frankly, start really early in August, which would be a culture shift for our people. And the main reason they do it is they are on a semester program, and they want to be done with the first semester at the winter break. So when the parent came to the day, they're 100% right. If I had kids in 2 systems, I'd want the same calendar. But for us to really go with theirs or vice versa, it's a lot of difference. You know, it's getting rid of February break. It's getting perhaps rid of the extra Thanksgiving day, things that our parents have built into their schedules and the planning. So that's why it is as it is.
I have a question.
Sure.
Does the spring break align?
It doesn't. So
Okay. 'Cause I noticed it looked like it was different, but
yeah. Theirs is a little early. We had that conversation. Theirs is, Veronica, do you mind scrolling down a little bit? Theirs, I think, is the last week of March. Does that sound right? We had that conversation, but then we looked at our February break.
right.
And if
right.
we're gonna have
it's right there.
Yeah, it's too soon, right? So we'd have loved to line it, but it just didn't make sense for us. We would have to get rid of the February break or break, a couple weeks break, and then a big haul into the end of the year. And Salinas High also gets out, I think, the last week of May versus, right? So that's why it is the way it is. We do understand that.
So if you did get rid of this February break, it'd be how much closer?
If we got rid of February break, we could then have our spring break at the same time as Salinas High, which would be the week before this. I think it would be the 25th through the 1st we could, and that's theirs.
Do people appreciate the February break?
I think so. I think they're getting used to it. I mean,
What about, because I know some, like, I think it's MPUSD has a fall break.
when is theirs?
I think it's like the first week of October.
Oh, okay. No, we haven't looked at that.
So if we wanted,
this is the
I
first
mean, I'm
read,
just,
so-
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, if there was discussion from, the committee
Yeah.
of flipping the February to the October. I know I've talked to educators, not necessarily in this district,
Yeah.
but they often say that fall is like the longest time
It
to
is.
get
It's
to
a grind,
Thanksgiving.
and May's a grind too. But again, I think we've had this similar. Not that we have to continue with similar, but we've had it for 5-6 years. So parents almost like we have parents at the end of last year go, when are your breaks next year? Because we're trying to book our timeshare, that kind of thing, right? Not right or wrong with that. Those are some of the questions we filled. I would say if we're going to move towards that, we probably should, start talking about it now, preparing parents, and then move it the next year.
Well, this is the first read, so we can give feedback to management administration for any changes that we want to see made.
Oh, one big. I'm sorry to interrupt you. There was one big. I did interrupt you.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Before we did that, because we added a day for special ed, so instructional reasons. Can you explain why we added the extra day in February? Because it's a really big help for special ed.
Significant.
Sorry.
Special ed is highly regulated, especially for timelines. And the language that I can pause the countdown clock if we have a break of more than 5 consecutive school days. So, for example, I have 60 days, calendar days, to complete an initial assessment. Once a family signs the paperwork, I get to pause my counting if I have a break of more than 5 consecutive school days. So if you count that extra day the following week, that actually buys me 10 days when you count the weekends on both sides, the 5 days plus the 2 weekend days plus the extra day the following week. Without that extra day the following week, my count does not stop, but I lose 9, so the 5 initial break days plus the 2 weekends out of my 60 days. So losing one less day of
I noticed that spring break doesn't have that additional day in this calendar.
We have to plan very carefully our timelines when we carefully plan our timelines.
Was there a reason behind why we are not planning for it in 2024 and yet we have it that way in 2023?
What do you mean?
Well, 2023 we have the week and a day.
Okay,
So
go ahead.
So we are going to be using a new grade book system next year and a new system overall. This year we didn't have an additional day at the start of the calendar. We added a day at the start, but we took away a day at spring break because we want to give teachers time to be able to use the new system for grade books and attendance and learn all of the new functions. But we had that additional day in April this year. Also, having an extra day in April, the school year is almost to an end, so sometimes it's harder to come up with staff development trainings that you're really only going to have about a month and a half left of school before you hit the end of the school year. So we're front loading in the beginning.
Okay, so can we take a vote to approve the first read? Any more questions? No, all in favor say aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0-1. The motion from the school board, the motion from the School Boards Association is that we have to approve a vote for the one person that's running. Can I have a motion to approve that? Second. Anybody have any feelings about David Kong from Greenfield and reasons that we shouldn't vote for him? Okay, so the motion really is to vote for David Kong.
Congratulations.
Roll call. Frank?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Stephanie?
Aye.
Peter? Motion passes 4-0-1. I was going to pull Kate and Veronica out of the consent item so we could say nice things about that, but I think we're done with that for tonight.
You don't have to accept the letter.
All right, motion to approve the consent items? Second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0-1. Future agenda items, anything we want to put on the agenda for other than what's listed? Hearing no comment, I'll accept a motion to adjourn. I'll beg for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0-1. We're done. Thank you, folks.